what's up everybody? I'm Landan with LMR.com. We're continuing on with kind of our door panel restoration, if you must, on our 1996 Bronco. So I have the door panel sitting here on our workbench, and one of the common problems on the OBS trucks, the 92 to 96 Broncos, and of course the 92 to 96 OBS trucks, is the provisions here for the inner door belt weather strip. Almost every single one of them that have been messed with, they're cracked and they're broken. Somehow, some way, the two center ones here have lived up to all the hee-haw over the years. But you can see the first one here is broke, and then the rear one, it's completely gone. And this is typically from just mishandling during a removal procedure, or if you're getting the windows tinted. I've seen people, or the window tinters, where they'll, take their tint tool and, pull the inner door belt weather strip to get that tint to lay down behind this. And that's where you get the damaged attaching point. So we've created these two brackets. These serve as repair, and they also serve as reinforcement brackets. If you're in a situation like us, and I feel like a lot of you will be in this situation where you have broken attachment points, you'll definitely want these. That way your inner door belt weather strip, has provisions to clip onto. So these are size specific. They're constructed from steel. They have a coating on them that's going to resist, corrosion and rust and stuff like that. And the way you figure it out, it's pretty simple. You can kind of just hold it up, and you can align these longer grooves here with the gusseting in the door panel. You can kind of just do this, and you'll know right away if you have the correct side, and you can go ahead and dry fit that, and make sure you're working with the correct side. So this will also give you the opportunity to see how far down it sits in relation to your jute padding, because we may have to pull this away so we can kind of just gently scuff this area and clean it before we put our emblem and trim adhesive on there. But you may notice there is no rearward attaching point. It really wasn't possible just because of the bend and the contour here on the door panel. Plus we have our little lock rod actuator bezel that's in that position as well. That's pretty much the bracket. Like I said, you'll get the driver and passenger side bracket. We're gonna give you some other goodies in the kit as well. You'll get some new screws for the door panel and plastic nut certs so you can repair an enlarged hole if it's needed. Whenever people take the door panels off and then put them back on, they'll sometimes use the wrong size screw, which enlarges the hole. If that's the case for your vehicle, you'll drill out the hole with a 1964 drill bit and then install the insert. I'll touch base a little bit more on that in the door panel removal and installation video. New door panel push pins are included as well, since 9 times out of 10, these break whenever you remove the door panel. And then finally, we're going to include 1 tube of plastic emblem and trim adhesive. But you want to go light on this, and I'll explain this in further detail, and you'll see me use it whenever we move to the installation procedure, because this can damage certain plastics, and if you apply this too thick, basically it's going to burn or eat into this plastic, and you'll start to see the top area of this door panel deform. If you need to know how to remove the door panel, it's really easy to do. We'll leave a video for you down in the description to check that one out. But to get started, we'll start cleaning this area. We'll get it scuffed up and get rolling. So we've already went ahead and determined which one's which just by dry fitting it previously, but this will be our passenger side reinforcement repair bracket. So we'll need to just gently roll this back. Now if you notice, these are spot welded into place. So if you pull this jute padding away from the back of this door panel, you're gonna risk tearing it. So what you can do, if you wanted to, you could take you some good, like maybe some higher tack painter's tape, and that's probably what I'm gonna do. You could also even use gaff tape. And what we'll wanna do, we'll just wanna roll this back. That way when we're done, we can pull the tape and then kind of gently pat this back down into location. So I'm gonna go and grab some tape and we'll get that repositioned. We're gonna gently roll this back. I'm going to use a pretty decent sized piece here, a long piece. I'd probably say it's maybe 4 to 5 inches. Then I'm going to kind of just stick it to something here on the door panel. You don't have to, this doesn't have to be pulled tight, okay? So you just want to kind of get it out of your way. Same goes for right here. This area is a little more difficult, I guess you could say. So I'm going to use the short side of this to pin it down. And you'll kind of have to press on a little bit to hold it. We should be okay here because if you notice, the way we're going to install this is we'll set it like this first, and then we're going to roll it into position so we won't have to move any of that. So now we'll go ahead and just scuff this, with some, probably 80 grit sandpaper or something like that, just to rough the surface up, and then we'll wipe with some alcohol. Green Scotch Brite may work. Yeah, we'll just use green Scotch Brite. And when you scuff this area, make sure you scuff underneath this lip or this flange here, ledge, whatever you want to call it, because you will have this attaching point as well that's going to need adhesive, or that will have adhesive on it. Don't have to micromanage it just too much because it's difficult to scuff around these gussets. Like I said previously, just the reaction of that emblem and trim adhesive with this particular composition of plastic, it's going to kind of melt into the surface anyway. So the roughing of this really, it's kind of not overkill, but we're doing it just because it's best practice. All right, so now I'm just checking again, make sure I've scuffed up enough of the area. If you want to give it one more glance over, one more look, and if you feel like you're good to go, then we can go ahead and wipe it with some isopropyl alcohol. Now this is something we do kind of want to micromanage because we do not want any impurities, dirts, oils, mold release agents, anything like that to impede or get in the way of the adhesion of the adhesive. Okay, and you can see kind of the crud that it pulled off on the towel. So I think the next steps, I'm gonna go ahead and glove up with some nitrile gloves because our hands do have oils on them. We'll need to prep this side of the bracket that's gonna obviously adhere to the door panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and glove up real quick with some nitrile gloves. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and clean our repair bracket, reinforcement bracket. It serves the same or dual purpose. I'm just gonna wipe this one side. If you feel like you want to rough this up, you can rough this up as well. Just know that there is a corrosion resistant coating on there, so you would kind of impede its ability to protect this bracket, but I mean at that point we're splitting hairs. Now, I don't know everything and neither do you, so it's always best to flip this over and read the instructions. That's just good practice. So right off the top, this adhesive contains solvents that will attack or damage some automotive surfaces. Before using, apply to a small hidden area of the same panel, leave for 12 hours and check for damage. So that's kind of common knowledge, test an inconspicuous spot, but we've already kind of done the homework for you. We've used this on several door panels. Just use it sparingly, use it lightly. You still want to cover the entire reinforcement repair bracket. You just don't want to goop this stuff on. I'm just going to lay some paper down, that way if I drip any, it'll get on this masking paper. And this stuff is tacky, so we'll just start applying it. You want to move in a decently quick manner. And I can already tell you right now that may be too much. So when we go to spread this, I may have to pull some of this off. When you're done, go ahead and cap it because you'll need this for the other side. But we probably used 1/4 of this tube. All right, so now we can do this two ways. You can spread this with a spreading tool. You can probably use some old cutlery, you know, plastic cutlery, something like that. I've just got this pry tool that I'm just gonna spread it out with. You can use your finger on your nitrile glove, or use your finger since you have nitrile gloves on. But this stuff's already kind of wanting to set up a little bit. We just want to cover as much surface area as we can. If you feel like you got too much, wipe it off. If you feel like you don't have enough, put a little bit more on. But like I said, be mindful that this will start eating into the plastic. Now we're going to roll this into position. This is why we dry fitted it first. That way you can kind of understand the motion of the ocean here. All right, so now we're in place. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of squeeze it to where it needs to go with my hands first. And then what we'll do, we'll come back with some clamps and we'll hold it down. Some sockets, you know, will work in here. We can clamp to. Okay, there we go. So that's squeezing that into place. You don't have to just go crazy on these. You just want them snug. And then one down here at the very end. And then you can kind of eyeball where your other fitment is, and if you need to, you can come back with some other additional clamps if they're large enough. So you'll want to make sure you do your homework and get you some clamps that will help hold this. Make sure they have rubber pads. Obviously that way you don't damage your door panel. And whenever this dries, you don't have to micromanage this too much. Whenever this dries, we can come back and we can just cut this stuff away whenever it hardens up. But since I'm gonna put a clamp in this area, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe that. I think the instructions said, press emblem onto surface, well, it's not an emblem, and hold in place with masking tape for 30 minutes. The clamps are our masking tape. We'll go ahead and let this dry, and then fortunately for us, we get to speed it up, and then we'll come back to you and we'll be removing our clamps. Okay, so for us, it's the next day, but as mentioned previously, per the instructions, it said, you know, wait a minimum of 30 minutes. I honestly would wait an hour just to be on the safe side. But we're gonna go ahead and remove all of our clamps here. Take a look at our work. Oh yeah, that turned out perfect. Go ahead and remove our gaff tape here. And this is why I said low tack earlier. You'll notice it'll pull some of the fuzziness off of the jute padding, but no big deal. So we'll kind of just work that back down. Probably good to mention, you know, if this is something that you need to replace, we do carry these as well. These kind of start to hold dust and smells and things. If yours is too far gone, you can replace it. We're not going to replace that today. This was just showing you the door panel reinforcement and repair bracket. Now that we've got this on, at this point, if we wanted to kind of wipe down this general area here before we reinstall our inner door belt weather strip, you can. I'm just going to hit it real quick with a dedicated interior cleaner. Okay, so we quickly cleaned up our factory inner door belt weather strip. We used a stiff bristled brush and some all-purpose cleaner, and now we're going to reinstall it onto the door panel. So you'll just align all your tabs with the provisions here, and then you'll just push it to engage the clips. Now, if you're installing aftermarket inner door belt weather strip, you may have to carefully bend the tabs to get a bite on the repair bracket. So at this point, we're good to go on this door panel. If you wanted to continue, you know, any more work, you can. Remember, we have the removal and the installation video for the door panel available in the description. And while we're here, it's probably good to note that you may want to take a look at your door panel push pins. Actually, all of the ones on this panel stayed attached to the door panel whenever we moved it, which is fairly rare. I guess I better go buy a lottery ticket, but just keep that in mind. With your reinforcement and repair brackets, we do give you new door panel clips just because we know that they're oftentimes broken, damaged. As always, hope y'all found value in this one. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way you're notified every time we release something new. And then until we catch you in the next one, y'all know what to do for all things 92 to 96 OBS Bronco. Keep it right here with the real enthusiasts, LMR.com.